Okay. Good afternoon. So starting shortly, Ireland will host an Arria-formula meeting on conflict and hunger. Our briefers will include representatives from the WFP, the FAO, and Concern Worldwide, as well as the UN Special Rapporteur on the right to food. We're exceptionally grateful, of course, that they're joining us today. I wanted to say before we start that for Ireland, the issue of hunger is personal. Our own cataclysmic famine, 175 years ago, still to this day has remarkable echoes on the island. It profoundly shapes outlook and demographics in Ireland. It's what the Irish President Michael D. Higgins has called the burden of an unaddressed tragedy. As a nation, we are repulsed at the notion of death through starvation. We're resolute that in a world of plenty, which we live in today, there can be absolutely no excuse for famine. And I expect we'll hear this from our briefers today. Increasingly, conflict is a major cause of rising hunger levels in Yemen, in Ethiopia, in Somalia, Haiti, in Syria, among others. Millions of people are starving and dying today as we meet here in New York. This is dying as a result of conflict and the impact of hunger and conflict. Adding to this, we now face immeasurable suffering due to the Russian Federation's illegal, unjustified invasion of Ukraine. This is resulting in increased food insecurity, which is reverberating right across the globe, and we see reports that up to 47 million additional people may suffer acute hunger in 2022 as a result of Russia's aggression. Today, Ireland will call on all of us here in this UN to do our job, to prevent conflict before it begins, to end conflicts before they result in hunger, and to hold to account those who unacceptably use hunger as a weapon of war. The Arria meeting we're having today is intended as an alarm signal. We want to show the cost of famine. Ireland knows that cost, and we have an obligation to speak out. Thank you.
Ambassador, obviously this is a very important issue at any time, but you just talked about raising the alarm. How much more serious has the alarm got because of the situation in Ukraine? How urgent is this now?
This is super urgent because we already have had reports of people in Ukraine suffering from lack of food. We're seeing reports of people being locked into situations where there's no humanitarian access, no access for food. So the situation in Ukraine proper is urgent. But the big worry, of course, is that both Ukraine and the Russian Federation are important food producers. They're important players in the food chain globally. And a country like Ireland, where we have looked at for example, Lebanon or even Egypt, but moving further south, looking at countries that are in grave difficulties already in famine-like conditions in Tigray, this is going to be exacerbated hugely by the interrupted production of food, by the food security challenges. So it has a huge multiplier effect on what already was a horrific situation. We've spoken out very clearly in relation to Ethiopia. We know it's not limited to Tigray. There are people starving in other parts of Ethiopia. We want to see humanitarian access in Tigray, but we need to have the supplies to deliver to people. Syria, similarly, where we play a role in the cross-border humanitarian access in Syria. So there are really serious issues that are now being exacerbated and multiplied by the crisis in Ukraine.
Ambassador, do you expect the Russian be present at your meeting and would speak at your meeting? Do you expect Vasily Nebenzia to be there?
I expect that the Russian Federation will be present at the meeting. This is an informal meeting of the Security Council, and as we engage naturally as Ireland in all Security Council deliberations, we would also expect our colleagues at the table. We want to hear from the Russian Federation, as we want to hear from other colleagues, about their assessment about a really serious situation on the ground. What we don't want to hear is disinformation. We have the facts. That's why we brought in really expert and experienced briefers, including an Irish non-governmental organisation working on the ground in the field. They know what this is about. We know what the facts are. So we want to hear from all our colleagues, but we want to focus on the actual issue.
Thank you very much.
Ambassador, while you're here, if you don't mind, one more. The Secretary General has announced a new initiative. He sent letters to the Russian Federation, to Ukraine, requesting that they arrange a visit to him, effectively shuttle diplomacy by the UN's top diplomat. How important could this be, and how important is it that those two countries make sure that he is able to carry out the visit he wants to?
This is critically important. We were absolutely delighted to see the Secretary General step forward. He has been very strong in his remarks to date. We now need to see action. And I think the suggestions that he's put out there in terms of engaging both parties brings the UN into the role that it properly assumes in its responsibility for international peace and security. Our sense is often that, of course, initiatives that are underway are very helpful. Turkey and others who have taken very important steps, but if not the UN, who, when it comes to an important global responsibility? Today we'll be talking about the global impacts. The UN has its place front and centre, and I'm delighted the Secretary General has taken that initiative. Thank you.